we want to get a live update, and we are live with Alec Cantley from Asheville. And Brian, you're down in Hilton Head, but you have Asheville in that area near and dear to you. But want to give everyone an update because this truly has hit everyone's heart from around the country, but do want to have the update and how we can have continued support for everyone up in your area, Alec, and sharing what efforts everyone has contributed, which is amazing. It shows how everyone has come together, and we would love to see that happening. So share a little bit here where you're at, what you're doing, and what you're observing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for putting this together. And first and foremost, just want to thank, so many members of the Little Blue Book and our Sotheby's family have reached out over the last couple of weeks and given financially. And it's just been amazing. The outpouring of support's been incredible. As you can see, I'm kind of on ground zero here in the River Arts District today. This is one of the areas that was completely flooded. This building behind me, just for reference, the water was up to the roof of that building. And so it's just catastrophic damage. We're just below downtown Asheville, but this was an area where a ton of small businesses were located. All of our art studios were here, and it's just completely decimated. One of many, many areas across Western North Carolina. So out here today, just trying to do what we're doing, as a community each and every day, try to put it back a little bit better day by day. But I am very, very appreciative for the support and appreciate you putting this together to kind of chat a little bit about where we're at here.
With that being said, just maybe give an update as far as the ones that have unfortunately been displaced. Are they with friends, family? Where is that now? As far as, are there still people that are stranded? Because I know we hear stories of just the horrific of, how people have been stranded up there.
Yeah, so it's still, it's still a very, very dire situation. I think the best way to explain what happened here, the best analogy I've heard is, if you take a 5-gallon bucket of water and you dump it on the ground, it's going to dissipate fairly quickly. And that's what typically occurs in places like Florida when these hurricanes hit. The problem here is we are in a very mountainous region. So if you took that same 5-gallon bucket of water and dumped it in your kitchen sink, it's going to drain out eventually, but it just totally backs up and floods. And so we just had catastrophic flooding. And with that flooding, we've had, the thing you've seen on the news is the floods. But then what comes along with that, tons of trees down. Our utility systems are a complete mess. We're still looking where my house is located. I'm on the Asheville City water system. We're still looking at probably 5 to 6 weeks before water is restored. So that's one huge issue. The other issue is when you get out in a lot of these mountain towns and mountain areas, the roads are totally gone. And so we've got some incredible nonprofits here that are working to literally fly in supplies to people that are stranded that just simply can't leave. The road's gone. There's no access in or out, outside that by foot. But in some of those cases, that's not even an option. And so, it is still very much a dire situation. A lot of the people that have, lost homes, they have found temporary housing. There are a lot of folks that are displaced by the utility situation. I've got quite a few friends who've already enrolled their kids in schools elsewhere and left the area temporarily. Someone that's very near and dear to both Brian and I, Sheila, who was Brian's assistant for a long time and now works for me. She lost her home completely, her trucks, her husband's business. They were completely devastated. They're staying with family in the area. So it's a lot of those types of situations for those that have lost their homes. But then again, still very much a dire situation for those that are in these remote areas. And the stories are heartbreaking. You just hear about, the elderly that are low on oxygen and thankfully our cell coverage has gotten better. But for a big portion of the last 14 days, cell coverage has been virtually non-existent in a lot of areas. There's been no internet. And so it's literally been, you hear these stories from these guys in the helicopters. They're just looking for old school SOS drawings or sticks and doing what they can do to get into these people because, the storm was devastating on Friday that it hit, but now it's still continuing to be devastating with loss of life caused by people that are simply starving and have no water.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And I heard that Starlink that was brought in
Yeah.
by some people, which is super helpful and amazing with that technology. So talking about the roads, right, of impassable, and we see that on the maps. Brian, I mean, what you have done and helped out, give everyone a little bit of background why, because you're 4 hours away at Hilton Head Island, but you were in that area. But how the heck have you been able to do what you're doing, and explain a little bit that for everyone out there what you've been doing, because that's amazing as well.
Yeah, I think, Andy, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you and Jordan for your hearts and the opportunity that you've come to us with to put this together and just be able to share a snapshot of what Alec and I have seen and been working on. But the long and short of it is that what this has shown me over the last 2 weeks, since again Friday 2 weeks ago is when this storm was right on top of Asheville and Western North Carolina and Georgia and South Carolina and Florida and Eastern Tennessee. It was just such a massive storm. But what I'll sort of echo what Alex said and what you and Jordan have put together, and that is that we have a network. Certainly Sotheby's, but also outside of Sotheby's, that this has shown us that there's a real community, and there are people that want to give, and there are people that are saying, I'll give time, I'll give money, I'll give supplies. And it's been awesome locally and from afar to see what's occurred. So, that said, obviously my heart aches for so many folks that have been impacted by this, but I'll give my brief story and then I'll share and fill in blanks throughout the conversation. But Friday morning, when I was impacted a bit here on Hilton Head Island, but I was watching the radar and I was seeing what was going on. And I lived in Western North Carolina from 2004 until about 5.5 years ago, when my family decided to relocate full time to Hilton Head. And we kept a place in Western North Carolina for quite some time and have since sold it. But all my past clients in the real estate business, all my old colleagues, all my old friends are scattered across the mountain region. And my understanding is, this is just something I have read, is that the mountain region of Western North Carolina alone encompasses about 11,700 square miles that was impacted by this storm. And so that said, on Friday morning, I spoke to Alec a couple of times, and I spoke to Sheila, and I spoke to a couple of other folks on the telephone. And then over the course of the morning, the cell coverage became worse and worse in Western North Carolina and essentially went out. But, I received an update that, that Sheila had lost her home and that the storm was way above and beyond what folks originally anticipated, because what I've heard is that the Wednesday and Thursday leading up to the storm on Friday is that the area in general received about 10 inches of rain. And then on Friday, depending on the region you were in, they received 18 to 30 inches in a few-hour period. And so with that said, you've got, and then you have winds. So you had just a horrific situation. On Friday, after this occurred and I got some information, we said, we got to find a way to help, and I want to get there immediately. So we gathered some supplies, and my phone began to ring with some colleagues and some friends that were saying, can you check on family members? I can't get in touch with them. As Alec alluded to, the cell towers were down. There was no cell coverage. People had no way to communicate. So on Sunday morning, I left Hilton Head at 5 a.m., got there, and I covered a fairly good portion of Buncombe County, which is where Asheville is located, and some of these other areas that have been mentioned on the news. And I was in some of Henderson County. But the long and short of it is, every turn I took, there were trees down, roads washed out, and these are these are roads that folks travel day in and day out. And so I kind of worked my way around some of these areas like Swannanoa and Biltmore Village and some outlier areas and saw the devastation. Showed up at some folks' houses that, and they had absolutely no idea. They thought that maybe it was just a few trees down in their neighborhood or a washout here and there. And I said, guys, based on what I'm seeing, because I've been out driving around all morning, it's much worse than you feel it may be at the moment. And so anyway, we were, led to serve as best we could, and dropped the supplies off, turned around, came back Sunday night, got back, and on Monday and Tuesday through the outreach here in the Hilton Head area and online with folks like yourselves and many other colleagues and many other friends, we're able to raise a few bucks, and we're able to go buy some pallets of food and water, and we're able to fill a 26-foot trailer and a moving truck, and turned right around and went right back and distributed that over the course of that week. So that was on Wednesday and Thursday, and then turned right back around on Friday and Saturday and went back again for a third time. But the long and short of it, and the only reason I share that is because from Sunday when I was there until Friday, as Alec alluded to, there are many needs, and depending on where you are in Western North Carolina, some of the very basic needs still continue to be needed. There are other areas where, thankfully, major corporations and tractor trailer loads of supplies began to come pouring into the area. And there, in some cases, are warehousing supplies at this point with regards to water or food. But that's a blip on the radar of the entire region where they're overloaded with that. Then it became a mission to figure out, how do we then distribute these, and where do we distribute these and items? But also over the course of the week, you began to hear story after story after story of folks that were still stranded, because if you can envision, you being in the Vail Valley as well, you have a culvert that's washed out, and you have 50 or 150 homes on the mountainside, and the access is totally cut off, and it looks like a logging operation that occurred, and they never went back and picked up the trees, in my mind. And there are people stuck on these mountainsides that need basic supplies and can't get out. And in a lot of other situations, you have elderly or sick folks that needed supplies. And so those efforts, I think, from what I understand, are improving, but are still, depending on where you are, ongoing. So the rescue and trying to figure out, how do we deliver supplies to the folks that are stabilized, but are in need and could be for a long time, and whatnot. So, that's a snapshot of what I observed, and I could go on and on and on, but there's a great need, and the need is going to exist for a long time. And you have to begin to think about, the weather is changing. There are people, as Alec alluded to, that, you've got folks from across this country. And I talked to linemen that had come to help restore power from Ontario to Indiana. And some folks are sleeping in the accommodations around town. So those are being occupied either by some helpers, or they are being occupied by some folks that have been displaced. But I also spoke to some linemen that are sleeping in a 53-foot tractor trailer with 39 other guys, and they have left their families to come serve. And so the outpour has been incredible, and is going to continue for a long, long time, the need there to take care of folks.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you for everything that you've done and continue to do. And Alec, as you're walking at ground zero I had to ask her, what is the apparatus that you're wearing, so people understand actually what is happening, and there's a reason why you're wearing that.
Yeah, so I've just got a respirator mask on. Obviously, when the river, so many of these rivers all feed into the French Broad, which is where I'm kind of on the banks of. You've seen it at portions while I've been walking around. So all the rivers feed into the French Broad River. And, when you talk about destruction like this, you talk about a lot of chemicals, a lot of gasoline, a lot of fecal matter. I mean, it's all in the river. And so it was all over this area. So while we've been actively working today and kind of getting back in these bushes and kicking dust up, just everyone here has got N95 masks. I went overkill with the respirator mask.
No, I totally understand that. And I think that's important for people to understand, because they think about, with the general items of water and their house and whatnot, but now the aftermath of what the result is. So I think it's important for people to understand that. And as Brian said, ongoing, the weather's going to be changing. People don't even think about it much with coats, because everyone's lost everything. So it's going beyond what the initial needs of water, food, which will continue, but now it goes into what they lost of other essentials, such as the coats. So one of the things that we want to make sure that is ongoing are the donations, and people have been donating with the money. And where do you think those next places, or how they can donate? I know we'll put some links on for people, but just maybe do an overview of what you see next steps of how to donate.
Yeah, I think Brian summed it up well. You know, the outpour of support with goods has been tremendous. You know, one of the first loads that Brian brought up was that was all stuff we handed out to one of the local elementary school systems, and then it just kept coming from there. To the point where if you had resources, which at one point we had a tractor trailer company that basically gave us unlimited trucks to bring up, and every organization I talked to was turning them away. So as of right now, we are very well stocked from a standpoint of, you know, food and water. So I think there's still a large recovery effort with a lot of these remote areas. And so we've got some amazing groups, Aerial Recovery Group, which is one of the links that we'll share. Those guys have been incredible. I mean, they're literally up here flying into these remote areas, evacing people. I mean, some of their stories, if you check them out on Instagram, it's incredible. I mean, they saved a 11-year-old or 11-day-old newborn that had a disease, and literally it was a life and death situation. They were able to fly in and get him land on the hospital here in Asheville, and the baby is doing really well now. So it's those kind of stories. So that's an incredible organization that I think still needs a lot of support. It's obviously not inexpensive to run a helicopter and pay a pilot. Another big need that we talked about a little bit offline before the call was just our small businesses here. I mean, these places, if you look here, I mean, these were all active artist galleries that, you know, on a day like today, this is normally our peak season. Normally this would be packed with people and all these galleries would be open and tourists would be here. And it now looks like a war zone. So these are the kind of businesses that it's going to be imperative that we figure out a way to continue financially supporting, where they can keep their people and ultimately come back here, because that is a huge piece of what Asheville's all about, is our art scene, our food scene. You know, we're really a tourism town. So, you know, that's going to be a huge piece, and I'll definitely send you a good organization for that. And then just a couple other like good ones that I think are just doing such good work here. Babies Need Bottoms is an organization that gets baby diapers and baby wipes to families in need. So there's always going to be a big need for that. And then in addition to that, Hearts with Hands is based out of Swannanoa. Swannanoa is just east of Asheville. It was completely devastated, totally flattened by the storm. It's a river town. And it also, I mean, some of these places, it's hard to really describe. I think the best way I describe how they look now is it's been apocalyptic biblical levels of destruction, where, you know, roads that I've driven for the 30 years I've lived here, there's been several times that I don't know where I'm at. And that is still pretty haunting to me. So, you know, just supporting those kind of organizations that are local, boots on the ground, based in Western North Carolina, working in Western North Carolina, it's going to be massive in order for us to keep sustaining a successful rebuild.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to tell people that to donate, make sure you know, because people are trying to do the right thing and helping, but unfortunately there's some people out there, you know, taking advantage of the situation. So be sure to really know that donation is going locally and to the right people and organization, and you're both great conduits to help you know, get that out, because we want to make sure with everyone donating, it goes to the proper goes into the proper hands, and not to you know, people out there that are not helping really to for the local folks that for the wrong reason, put it that way.
Andie, I want to piggyback real quickly and just say something that, you know, keep in mind that, again, this whole region was affected. Premier Sotheby's and Premier Sotheby's agents literally cover, for the most part, the entire mountain region. And Premier Sotheby's has offices that were affected along this, for the most part, this whole chain. You know, you've got the Asheville location, and as a real estate agent, you serve multiple counties there. But then, you know, Premier has an office up in the Boone, Blowing Rock, Banner Elk area as well. And this whole region was affected, and everywhere in between that are much more rural areas and tough to get to. And so, I just wanted to say that. And then I also want to make mention that, as Alec alluded to, I mean, Asheville and these mountain towns are very service oriented towns. There's not a tremendous amount of large industry there. And so, finding a way to, again, keep businesses and employees, and so many, again, have been displaced from their own personal homes. And then you have businesses that have been affected. The effort is above and beyond just the basic needs of food and water. Obviously, we have shelter as one of the basic needs, and so on and so forth. But it's just a large effort. It's broad, and people can help in so many ways. I mean, you can help much more to another level that you can help, where people are helping and serving, is, again, they are distributing food from the backs of their cars after they've affiliated with an organization, and taking it out to people and hand delivering it to folks at their houses or at their apartment complexes. People are showing up with chainsaws and clearing their neighbors' driveways. People are showing up with shovels and going in and cleaning out people's houses and taking all the furniture that they're not going to be able to use anymore to the street to be picked up. So people are helping in a lot of ways. And so I just want to say there's a lot of ways to serve, and just keep all that in mind.
Yeah, I so appreciate that. And to everyone out there, if you want to know even more specifically how to help in other ways, please reach out to both Brian, Alec directly, because you both, thank you for everything that you have done and continue to do. I know it's a long haul and road for everyone. So we just want to make sure everyone out there knows that this is not just a temporary, just happening in the next few weeks. This is going to be ongoing for maybe even, I hate saying it, but I've heard even years.
Yeah. There's infrastructure needs and whatnot that totally have to be rebuilt as well.
Yeah. So, well, thank you all for the update. I thank you all what you do. Just know that our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with everyone out there, and however we can help. That was the whole point of this, to share that and get a live update, and letting people know how they can continue to help and donate, and however people can. Every dollar counts. So that's the other thing that I've really like to tell people. Even if you say, some people are funny, they go, oh, well, $10, $20, $50, that, they feel they can't really do more than that. Every dollar counts in every way possible, and even servicing counts.
And one last thing I'll add as well, Andie, is even if you financially contributed, please share Western North Carolina. Keep Western North Carolina top of mind. We can't be forgotten. I know this is one of those things that the news cycle has focused hard on us, but it's already now on to Florida with the next hurricane, which is equally as devastating and as awful to hear about. But for anybody who's watching this, use social media, spread the word, get it out to your client base. We need serious help. We have a long road ahead, and so financial contributions are needed today, but they're going to be even more needed as we recover as a community, as our small businesses recover, and we just try to take it one day at a time and rebuild from this. So please don't forget about us here in Western North Carolina.
Well, and that's, it's to the point. That's why we're doing this now, weeks after this, when it occurred, because I don't want it forgotten, and we'll keep everyone updated. And so thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time, letting everyone know what's happening, and more to come. Thank you all.
Everybody, stay well. Andie. Stay well. Have a good weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.